Hey, what is up? It's Zach, your YouTube foot doctor. And yeah, today I got the brand new Nike Vapor Lite. Now this shoe comes in at only $80 US, so well under that $100 price point. But I really want to see is, does this shoe play like a discount shoe, or can this shoe kind of punch up above its weight class? Let's test it out and find out. Now getting into the uppers of the Vapor Lite, what you'll notice is you don't really have a ton of foxing and reinforcement on the uppers. It's mostly just a really plush mesh, which I do really like. It is actually really comfortable to step into. Zero break-in time on the uppers. It does have this one strap on both sides that's supposed to tie down. It actually does integrate into the shoelace eyelets, which I do like. However, when you step into the shoe, it does feel a little floppy. However, once I got it on the court, especially during the suicide test, I really found that on corners, the uppers did hold pretty well, much better than I thought they would. And when playing, going side to side, the uppers actually did hold me in pretty well. I think it's because you kind of sink into the shoe a little bit more, so you're not popping out of it. So the shoe actually does give you a little bit more of a feeling of stability. Now a lot of that has to do with the midsole too, which we'll talk about in a minute, but the uppers, for being really plush and comfortable, still do hold you in pretty well. Alright, on the upper durability test, we're off to a pretty good start. Only about 1 millimeter of damage. That toe cap guard is actually pretty stout. A lot more stout than I would suspect from a shoe starting at 80 bucks. Now the first thing I noticed on the Midsole Teardown was actually the uppers and just how well they are built. This is a true 3-layer upper. You've got the mesh outside layer right here, and you've got the padded inner layer. Then you've got those two straps that go from the shoelace line all the way sewn into the non-removable insole and midsole. So you're getting a ton of that midfoot protection, which is where you really need it. Plus all this nice plush padding. It really kind of vacuum seals around your foot. So Nike really found a way to make these uppers super plush and padded, but also nice and secure as well. So this is a really nice build. And because the upper is a little more plush and padded than some other more minimalist Nike shoes out there, they did heat up a little bit more in the infrared test as compared to the Vapor 10s at 16 degrees after the treadmill for 10 minutes versus on that Vapor 10, which was only around 14 degrees. However, still not a huge increase. Alright, now on the Midsole Teardown, the first thing I want to bring your attention to, you see these different colors here in the back. That is not just for show. There actually is a less dense foam here on the inside of the shoe, the medial side, than on the outside of the shoe. When you put the shoe on, it kind of feels like there's less foam on the inside of it than there is on the outside. It kind of feels like your foot is tilting this way. It's just that it's less dense foam on the inside. Now, that's for a couple of reasons. Now, Nike said it so that you get more accommodating and more kind of comfortable feel while still giving you a good push off on the outside. If you ask me, it kind of has the same feeling as the old Air Oscillate, which they do kind of make the shoe a little bit more stiff on the outside because it helps prevent ankle sprains without giving the shoe so much material on the outside that it starts to really weigh you down. Now, the interesting thing about the Vapor Lite is that it's not the lightest Vapor. The Vapor Pro in my size weighs in at 13.97 ounces. This one weighs in at 14.18 ounces for my size. And coming all the way through the midsole, this is really interesting. 2.3 centimeter heel height, but in the middle of the heel, if you go back further posterior toward the back, look how thin it gets. That's a pretty intense rocker on the back, this posterior rocker. Now that posterior rocker is going to give you a little bit easier push off. It's just going to be a little bit easier to run in the shoe. It just moves more fluidly. However, it is going to decrease the stability of the shoe. Now, I never felt it unstable in terms of going side to side just because it has a really nice lateral flange on it. So I didn't feel that, but I did feel a little bit more arch strain in my higher arched foot. And I think that came, number one, from the decrease in the density of the foam on the inside of the shoe, but also from this posterior rocker. It is going to put a little bit more strain on your foot muscles. So if you're buying this shoe thinking that it's going to give you a lot of support because of all that dense foam on the outside, because of the rocker, and because of the less dense foam on the inside of the shoe, you are going to kind of have a little bit more instability. Now, you also have that 1.3 centimeter heel to toe drop, so it is a pretty nice drop off from the top of your heel. And on the serve test, a really surprising 27 centimeters. I did not think I was going to get anywhere close to that, especially because there is no shank in this shoe. There's something rigid under here. So the foam on the outside of the shoe, that rigid foam, is kind of acting as the cantilever, is kind of acting as that hard reinforcement of the shoe. But when that breaks down, you can really expect these shoes to get pretty floppy, and I wouldn't expect that to be very long of a period of time, especially if you are a heavier player. Now, getting into the outsole tread, Nike considers this a herringbone tread. I really don't. On the medial side, on the inside of the shoe, these are more of like racing skids with just some air channels, and on the lateral side, this is just more like a punched out wave, almost like just a less deep Asics Court FF2. Now, these do grip pretty well on a hard court. I will say they kind of suction cup to the ground. However, the tread depth is pretty low, so even before we do the durability test, you can tell that these are going to bottom out faster than a lot of other shoes. And on that outsole durability test, the Dremel 10-second Titus Grit sandpaper, a little over 2 millimeters of damage. Now, 2 millimeters is a little bit more than some other shoes we've seen this year. However, what really concerns me is that 2 millimeters, a little over it, actually gets you almost to the bottom of that tread channel. So just with a little bit of wear, these are going to wear out a little bit quicker than some other shoes. However, like I said, the treads, while they're new, actually do grip pretty well. I did feel going side to side that when the shoe needed to grip on the court, it actually did grip really well, and I was able to push off and go the other direction and feel pretty confident with these treads on that hard court. So even for a slicker hard court and for a grittier hard court, these outsole treads are going to grip really well while they're new. Now, the fit of the Vapor Lites I kind of alluded to prior, but the uppers are just so plush and accommodating. They really do fit more foot types than some other Nike shoes. So me with my 2E width foot and my standard 11.5 US size fit just fine. Had zero break-in on these shoes. Really had no discomfort whatsoever. The shoe is a little more floppy, however, it did hold me in pretty well. So I will say if you are a wider foot person looking to buy a pair of Nikes, these are probably going to be one of your best bets. Now, if you are somebody that suffers from, number one, plantar fasciitis, if you have higher arches, just have more arch strain in general, these shoes probably aren't going to be that great because of that softer foam on the inside of the shoe on that medial side. Your arch is just going to bottom out a little bit more. Now, if you put an orthotic in these shoes, like a custom one or a pretty stiff one, these shoes are going to play like a different shoe. Then you're going to get a lot more rigid movement, a little bit better of a propulsion and push off. So if you put the orthotic in there, I think these shoes then fit a whole other category of people. However, just in general, these shoes are not great for somebody that is looking for more of a supportive shoe, especially if you've had previous injuries. But if I had to describe the Vapor Lite in one word, it would be trainer. That's because it's good at training and bulking up the muscles on the inside of your foot. If you look at a diagram of the muscles of your foot, right, you got a couple muscles there on the inside, and they're the first to fire during the gait cycle. They're also the first to fire when you're jumping into your serve. And a shoe like this, which doesn't have the bulk and padding underneath those muscles, is really good for training them up. I think this shoe is better off kind of in your training block time, maybe not as a steady diet, unless you have an insert in there and a rigid orthotic. And these shoes do become a pretty decent everyday shoe. However, I do think this shoe is pretty good during those training blocks. If you don't want to, like I said, wear the 5 fingers or go barefoot, then I think this shoe is actually pretty good to bring out every once in a while, just to maybe try to train up those foot muscles, especially on the inside of your foot, for a little bit of a quicker push off, or maybe just a little more of an explosive first step. And at the $80 price point, yeah, I think these are a winner, especially with an insert in them. You can really get some good use out of these shoes, especially on a hard court with this tread and that really aggressive lateral flange. They're gonna play pretty well for you. I actually had a lot of fun playing in these shoes, and I actually learned something about my foot in these shoes as well. So overall, I actually do like these. But let me know what you think of the Nike Vapor Lites in the comments down below. Are you interested in trying them? Do you think these are a decent buy for the price? Let me know down below. And if you want to see all of Nike's 2021 lineup, make sure you just click into the playlist up above and subscribe down below. See you in the next video.